Yemen's new weapon unleashed, cluster warhead attack on Tel Aviv sparks regional alarm. In a dramatic escalation of the Middle East conflict, Yemen has reportedly deployed a new and highly destructive weapon against Israel, the cluster warhead. According to video footage circulating across various media outlets, missiles fired from Yemen split mid-air into multiple smaller submunitions before raining down on their target in Tel Aviv. This marks the first confirmed use of such a weapon by Yemeni forces, and experts say it could reshape the dynamics of the conflict in the region. The attack has been described by military analysts as a game-changer, not only in terms of Yemen's tactical capabilities but also in the broader geopolitical balance of power in the Middle East. For Israel, a country already engaged in high tensions across Gaza and other fronts, this latest strike represents a significant new challenge. The attack in detail. Eyewitness accounts and verified clips from last night's incident show what appears to be a large missile fired from Yemeni-controlled territory. Once it entered Israeli airspace, the missile split into dozens of smaller warheads, dispersing over a wide area before slamming into targets. Unlike traditional ballistic missiles, which focus on a single strike, a cluster warhead multiplies destruction by releasing smaller bomblets that can cover entire neighborhoods, military bases, or critical infrastructure. This means that even if Israeli air defenses intercept some parts, other warheads can still bypass and strike their objectives. The attack has left several areas of Tel Aviv on high alert, with residents rushing to shelters as sirens blared across the city. Early reports suggest there were both material damage and civilian injuries, though official figures are still being verified. Why this attack matters. Military experts argue that this strike signals a dangerous new phase in the Yemen-Israel confrontation. For years, Yemen's Houthi-aligned forces have been targeting Saudi Arabia and the UAE with drones and ballistic missiles. But by extending their reach into Israel and now using advanced warhead technology, the conflict has escalated into a broader regional confrontation. Cluster warheads are banned under international conventions due to their devastating impact on civilians. The Convention on Cluster Munitions, CCM, signed by more than 120 nations, prohibits their use because unexploded bomblets often remain active for years, posing long-term risks. Neither Yemen nor Israel, however, are parties to the treaty. The political message here is clear: Yemen is no longer relying on symbolic drone strikes but is now deploying weapons that can seriously challenge Israel's layered missile defense system, including the Iron Dome, David Sling, and Arrow. Regional reactions. The strike has sent shockwaves across the Middle East. In Iran, Yemeni allies hailed the attack as a legitimate response to Israeli policies in Gaza. Iranian media portrayed the Barish Kalahak or Rain of Warheads missile as a strategic breakthrough, demonstrating the resilience and technological advancements of resistance forces in the region. In contrast, Israeli officials have condemned the attack as a direct escalation that cannot be tolerated. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened an emergency meeting with the Security Cabinet, declaring that Israel would respond with full force to protect its citizens. Meanwhile, the United States has issued a statement condemning the strike, warning that such attacks threaten not only Israel but also global stability. Washington reaffirmed its commitment to Israel's defense, sparking speculation about whether U.S. forces in the region may be directly involved in intercepting future Yemeni missiles. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, who have fought against Yemen's armed groups for years, are watching closely. Analysts suggest that if Yemen can strike Tel Aviv with advanced warheads, Riyadh and Abu Dhabi remain vulnerable despite years of investment in U.S.-supplied defense systems. Israel's defense dilemma. For Israel, the use of cluster warheads poses a new strategic dilemma. The Iron Dome, while effective against short-range rockets, was not designed to handle a missile that splits into multiple warheads mid-air. Defending against such weapons requires multiple interceptors, making it costly and challenging. Furthermore, the psychological impact on Israeli citizens cannot be ignored. For the first time, many in Tel Aviv experienced an attack that felt overwhelming and unpredictable. Residents described the scene as chaotic, with multiple explosions lighting up the night sky and fragments falling across different districts. If Yemen continues to use such weapons, Israel may need to rethink its air defense strategy, potentially leaning more heavily on US and European support. Humanitarian concerns. The attack has also raised serious humanitarian concerns. Cluster warheads are notorious for causing civilian casualties because their wide area effect makes it nearly impossible to target only military sites. Already, reports indicate that residential neighborhoods were affected. International human rights organizations have voiced alarm, urging all parties to refrain from weapons that violate humanitarian law. At the same time, Yemen insists its strikes are in direct retaliation for Israeli involvement in the ongoing Gaza conflict. Yemeni officials argue that their military actions are aimed at deterring aggression and sending a message that Tel Aviv is no longer beyond reach. Broader implications. This event marks a turning point in the Middle East. It shows that Yemen, despite years of blockade and war, has managed to develop or acquire advanced missile technology capable of bypassing some of the world's most sophisticated defense systems. Experts fear that if this capability is expanded, we may soon see wider regional warfare. Iran's role will also come under sharper scrutiny, as Western intelligence agencies suspect that Tehran may have provided the technology or blueprints for such warheads. For the United States and its allies, the attack poses a new test: how to prevent a localized conflict from spiraling into a full-scale regional war. Diplomatic efforts are already underway at the United Nations, where emergency meetings are expected to address the dangers of cluster munitions. Conclusion. The bearish Kalahak cluster warhead strike on Tel Aviv represents a dangerous escalation in the Middle East conflict. It underscores Yemen's growing missile capabilities, challenges Israel's defense systems, and raises serious humanitarian and legal concerns. While Tel Aviv vows to retaliate and Washington pledges support, the attack could mark the beginning of a new era of warfare in the region, one defined not just by drones and rockets, but by advanced warheads that alter the balance of power. As the world watches closely, one thing is clear: the Middle East has entered yet another volatile chapter, and the use of such weapons risks igniting a cycle of violence with consequences far beyond the region.